Jimmy Dore did interview Marianne Williamson, and I do not think that this went well for Marianne at all. I would like to have been a fly on that wall at the end of that interview to see what her campaign thought of her performance. We're going to focus on the subject about Russia and Ukraine, since you know how YouTube can be. I can't focus on the pandemic conversation, unfortunately. But we're going to dive into this discussion. And actually, at the very beginning of this video, when he's actually introducing Marianne, there's something that's mentioned that I want to bring to your attention. I don't know if everybody noticed this, but here we go.
We have special guests with us. Marianne Williamson is here. She's a best-selling author, lecturer, activist, as well as a 2024 Democratic candidate for president of the United States. She previously ran in 2020, and in 1989, she founded Project Angel Food, a nonprofit that delivers meals to ill and dying homebound patients. In 2004, she co-founded the Peace Alliance, a nonprofit.
That part right there. In 2004, she co-founded the Peace Alliance. What does that organization do? Eric, if you have a moment, can you Google Peace Alliance? And the reason why I ask is because that sounds like that would be something like anti-war, right? Like no war, no fighting, peace, right? I'm curious. Let me know if you find it, Eric. But that organization, let's look into that, guys, and see what does that organization actually do.
Profit grassroots education and advocacy organization focused on increasing U.S. government support of peace-building approaches to domestic and international conflicts. Please welcome back to the show, Marianne Williamson. How are you doing?
So you hear that, peace approaches. Now, I bring this up because it doesn't seem to align with her foreign policy stance. Let's continue.
I'm good, thank you, Jimmy. It's nice to see you, and thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. Now, last time we talked, you weren't sure about Medicare for All or Julian Assange, and I think you have different stances on both those things. How do you feel about Julian Assange now?
Take those charges down day one.
You would not prosecute him. You'd let him free. Let him go free.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. On Julian Assange, when we spoke before, which was years ago now,
right?
I wasn't so sure. I'm certainly sure about that now. And on Medicare for All, you were one of the people that I think started to really change my mind. Actually,
okay.
It wasn't that long ago. It was kind of funny when she said, "Oh, it was years ago." Now it wasn't that long ago. You ran for president in 2020, so I don't want people watching this to think this happened like, I don't know, 6 years ago or something. It really wasn't long ago.
Hey, so you're a full backer of Medicare for All?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
completely.
that certainly separates you from the rest of the Democratic primary pack, because Joe Biden is determined to not let people get health care. He didn't give us the public option he promised, and he's now repealing Medicare for people that had it during the pandemic. So, Marianne, how did the Democratic Party become the party of censorship and war?
Well, when it comes to being the party of war, I think both of them. I mean, when it comes to big oil and defense contractors, both the Republicans and the Democrats are in lockstep with their corporate donors on that. So,
pause. Okay. Yes, we know that. Yes, that's true that both parties do that. But that wasn't the question. Jimmy was specifically asking her, how did the Democratic Party change? How did the Democratic Party go from being like this anti-war party to like this pro-war party? What Marianne tried to do was come in and both sides it and say, oh yeah, well, both parties are, become pro-war and they're part of the military industrial complex. They really got a hold on them, stuff like that. But the question that he was asking is, why did the Democratic Party change? And Marianne didn't answer that question. And I think the reason why she didn't answer that question is because, number one, she'd have to admit that the party did change and did become more pro-war. And I don't think she wanted to admit that. Let's go on.
I don't think of it as the party of war any more than the Republicans are, actually. I mean, you can look at individuals, but I just think of the military industrial complex as having its grip on both parties, actually. So it's really more, how did the U.S. government become so hostage to Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and Boeing? That is the question in my mind.
I mean, even people who don't take corporate money in the Democratic Party are for the Ukraine war, and they just vote for military budgets. They vote for that's the reason why it stands out, is because the Democratic Party was supposed to be a left party. They were supposed to be anti-war. Everybody always expected the Republican Party to be right-wing and pro-war, and so that's why it's a different thing now. And everybody in the Democratic Party votes for war. They're all war pigs, and there's a big faction of the Republicans who aren't. In fact, we just covered a story with Matt Getz, who wants us to get out of Africa. You'll never hear Democrats do that. Why is that?
Well, first of all, I'm not enrolled in your perspective on pro-war. I think that.
What? Look at the look on Jimmy's face. This is hilarious. I'm sorry. Like, if you look at she said she's not enrolled in his, hold on.
Wants us to get out of Africa. You'll never hear Democrats do that. Why is that?
Well, first of all, I'm not enrolled in your perspective on pro-war. I think.
But what he said was true. It's not perspective if it's fact. Like, come on. I don't understand this at all, man. It's just like, I'm not enrolled in your perspective of pro-war.
That there are a lot of people who are very, very concerned about the power of the U.S. war machine.
Which ones would those be?
Well, for one, me. I mean,
no, I'm talking about Democrats in Congress or who are elected.
I can't speak so much about Democrats in Congress, because I think of Democrats in Congress as so beholden to the corporatist Democratic leadership when push comes to shove. Obviously, I do. I wouldn't be running. Notice I'm running and they're not. So a lot of people who say they're progressives who are in Congress fall in line when it comes to that. But I think that there are many of us who do not look at it that way and still have a different view, perhaps, than you do on when it comes to.
The point that Jimmy was trying to make is that the Democrats in Congress, when it comes to especially voting on legislation, they've been supporting these wars. And Marianne has to know that. I mean, it's been discussed over and over again for the past almost 2 years, how they've been voting. So when she says she doesn't know about Democrats in Congress, that tells me that she hasn't been doing her research, but she wants to run for president. Let's continue.
Your view on the Ukraine war?
Well, I certainly am not naive about how we got there. I certainly understand that the U.S. Poked the bear. I certainly understand about the Aegis missiles in Poland. I don't feel that I'm naive at all about how the U.S. war machine works. However, it's kind of like you look at someone like Dwight Eisenhower. On one hand, he is the man who coined the phrase military-industrial complex, and he was the supreme commander of all Allied forces in World War II. It's not an either-or. You can be aware that the military is profiteering in and causing a real terrible problem, as he realized after all that was over at the end of his presidency, and at the same time feel strongly that certain lines must be drawn, certain boundaries, and certain people must be stopped. So
no. Because you're still supporting the military industrial complex if you do that, Marianne. If you can't both sides, hold on. Let me go back. She's both siding this. Listen to this.
I understand that the U.S. Poked the bear. I certainly understand about the Aegis missiles in Poland. I don't feel that I'm naive at all about how the U.S. war machine works. However, it's kind of like you look at someone like Dwight Eisenhower. On one hand, he is the man who coined the phrase military-industrial complex, and he was the supreme commander of all Allied forces in World War II. It's not an either-or. You can be aware that the military is profiteering in and causing a real terrible problem, as he realized after all that was over at the end of his presidency, and at the same time feel strongly that certain lines must be drawn, certain boundaries, and certain people must be stopped.
So I guess those lines were drawn through Ukraine, right? Certain boundaries must be drawn, certain people must be stopped. Doesn't that require weapons? And if it requires weapons, aren't you still supporting the military industrial complex? And why do people keep bringing up all these people from the past, man? Like, what is it with this, man? I don't know if it's her or RFK Jr. who does this the most. They keep bringing up ghosts of our past, you know, like Dwight Eisenhower, RFK Sr., you know, JFK, back during such and such time, and back when this person was around. That was a long time ago. It's 2023. Why you keep bringing up all these old people that's dead and gone? It's a very different time now than it was when Dwight Eisenhower was president. It is a very different time now than it was when JFK was president. Why we keep going back to these people, man, as if we're living in the same time right now, dealing with the same issues right now as we did when they were president. Let me continue. They kill me with that, man.
So when you look at what happened last weekend in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, 40 nations coming together, that's very important what happened last weekend. With China, India was there, Brazil was there. And I think that many of us feel, I feel that actually the fact that Ukraine got some support that it's gotten from the United States and other Western nations is part of what has opened up the possibilities that exist right now for real negotiation, because it will be other countries. This is not just about what the United States.
They could have negotiated in the very beginning. In the very beginning, negotiations were on the table. Russia was willing to negotiate. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, well, this opened up the door to more negotiations. They already had the opportunity to negotiate, Marianne. You don't see this as a money laundering scheme for what it is. I told you she's horrible on foreign policy. And I'm not a foreign policy expert, but I can see this shit. Let me continue.
With China, India was there, Brazil was there. And I think that many of us feel, I feel that actually the fact that Ukraine got some support that it's gotten from the United States and other Western nations is part of what has opened up the possibilities that exist right now for real negotiation, because it will be other countries. This is not just about what the United States says. Most things when it comes to military around the world, it's not a unipolar world anymore. It's multipolar. A lot of nations are involved in this. And so I think we should all be glad about what seems to have begun to happen in Saudi Arabia last weekend.
A lot of nations are involved because of NATO. A lot of nations are involved because of NATO. We talked about this earlier on RBN earlier today, the fact that Germany, the people in Germany, for the most part, the majority did not approve of sending Leopard tanks to Ukraine. But Germany felt like they were pushed to do so. I mean, the administration, they were pushed to do so because Joe Biden had announced that the U.S. would be sending tanks into Ukraine. And so since Germany is an ally of the United States, they felt like they were pushed to do it. It's just, let's stop pretending like one day all these countries just woke up and said, oh, hey, yeah, we're going to try to help too. We're going to try to send weapons and things too. They have an agreement. You could tell Jimmy's not feeling this.
So I'm trying to figure. So you're saying you support Joe Biden's policy in Ukraine?
What I don't support about Joe Biden's policy is when he says for as long as it takes. He and Lloyd Austin just talk about how we're just giving money for as long as it takes. We need to be in support of a negotiated settlement.
In other words, what Marianne is saying is she may not agree with the Biden administration prolonging this war and saying as long as it takes, but she damn sure agrees with them giving them the money and the weapons and the health care, by the way, which they're not giving you. Because when we break down those packages, when Glenn Greenwald broke down those packages, the first earlier on packages, they had health care in the package. Now they're going to give them health care, but they won't give everybody in the United States health care. They just announced they're sending about 20 billion to Ukraine again. Meanwhile, you have people in Hawaii running from the freaking fires. Over 1,000 people in Hawaii right now can't be accounted for. Where's their $20 billion? Where's the $20 billion to people in East Palestine, Ohio, who've been poisoned in their own damn community? But she is okay with the money going there. They use these words like support. She's okay with the money going there. She just has a disagreement with the time period. Let me continue.
So there already was a
Of course,
piece.
theoretically, you would say, I mean, Jake Sherman was there. So to some extent, of course,
So
guess-
you're aware that in 2014 that the CIA couped the Ukrainian government with the help of the right-wing Nazis, and then the people in the eastern part of Ukraine in the Donbass didn't want to go along with that couped government, and so Ukraine started shelling them. The government of Ukraine, the couped government, started shelling them, and so they had the peace agreement called the Minsk Accords, which we now know that which was going to give the people in the Donbass, they would stop shelling them, and that they would give them some kind of independence because they were the Russian speakers in that country in the east part. And so Ukraine never followed that peace agreement. And now we know, because Angela Merkel and others have revealed it, that they never intended on following that peace agreement, and they didn't, and they kept shelling those people in the Donbass. And when Putin invaded, it was to stop that shelling. So were you aware of that history?
I am aware of what you are saying.
Oh, Jesus Christ. This is bad. This is really bad. Mr. X, you're correct. This is bad. Who's running for president, Marianne or Jimmy? I don't know how many times I continue to have to keep saying this. Marianne is still not educated on this issue. Jimmy had to lay all of this out for her to explain to her how they got to be in this situation to begin with in the first. Like I told you, they had an opportunity for peace negotiations. So he had to explain all this history of it to her. And then her response is just, I've heard what you have said, basically. But she don't necessarily agree with what he said. What was false about what he just said? What was false about what? She's running for president. Are we serious here? Are we serious here? Do you want Marianne Williamson to have her hand on the button for the nukes? Do you want Marianne Williamson in charge of foreign policy? Let's continue.
And when Putin invaded, it was to stop that shelling. So were you aware of that history?
I am aware of what you are saying. I am not enrolled in your interpretation of exactly what you are saying.
Here she go with this. I'm not enrolled. I'm not enrolled with your interpretation. Like, all you have to do is you can read this on your own. Like, I've read this on my own. It's just that I'm not enrolled in your interpretation of events. Those things are true. This woman not serious, man. She not serious. This ain't no presidential campaign. What is this? You go on to Jimmy Dore show. What, Jimmy has what, over 1 million subscribers? You go on to one of the largest shows in independent media, and you just basically reveal to everyone. How many people saw this video? This is the clip. How many people saw this? Over 140,000 views. Okay. You revealed to over 140,000 people, and however many people were watching the live stream during that time, that you are not informed about this issue with Russia and Ukraine, but you're running for president? This not serious, man. This not serious.
I am not. I do.
So what do you disagree with?
I'll tell you the problem I have with it. I do not believe that Ukraine is nothing but a puppet of the United States.
You're adorable.
So we're not going to agree on that.
Oh boy. Like, all you got to do is just follow the money. BlackRock trying to set up shop in Ukraine. Come on, man. It's just like, how can you not Jimmy was nice and said you're adorable, but she's ridiculous.
So if we stop funding the Ukraine government, the Ukraine government shuts down. Do you know that? Do you know if we stop funding the Ukraine government shuts down, right? We're paying every person in the Ukraine government salary. We're paying their social security. You know that, right? Or maybe you don't.
Let me ask you if you know, because I don't like being talked to like, do you know? So
I'm asking, do you know that?
She doesn't know. No, she really don't know. That's why I said, guys, this is not serious. There's no way. You're talking about foreign policy. Jimmy Dore had to educate you on this issue with Russia and Ukraine. And she was laughing this up. She was just laughing a minute ago. What's funny? What's fucking funny? You running for president, you will be in charge in reference to making foreign policy decisions. This is not a funny laughing time. That's why I know this ain't serious.
You know what? I know. Listen, I'm not saying that everything is clean between the United States.
I'm asking you, did you know that?
I know that there are all kinds of business dealings.
So you don't know that? You didn't know that?
That there is money being paid to Ukraine.
That we are paying their entire government salary. You didn't know that? And that's how we could force a peace agreement tomorrow, is because we would just take back that money and their government collapse.
You're right.
Okay.
That we completely.
Jesus, this is bad. This is bad. This is bad. It would have been different. It's not bad for Jimmy. It's bad for Marianne. It would have been different if this happened on a smaller show. But this happened on Jimmy Dore's show where over 140,000 people saw this. It just
withdrew support from Ukraine, the government of Ukraine would collapse. I certainly understand that. The difference you and I have is that you seem to think that would be a great thing. I don't. I don't think the Russians having complete control of Ukraine and getting their way in this situation is good for Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Finland, Sweden.
Getting their way. They offered peace negotiations in the beginning. They offered Oh my goodness.
And I do not believe that that means there would be peace in Europe. There would be anything but peace in Europe.
So you're just another pro-war Democrat. You really don't have anything. You're not really against war. You're for this war and all the propaganda that goes along with it, because this was provoked by NATO. There's no point to even have NATO. I mean, this is really disappointing.
Yeah, to answer that question, she is. She's just another pro-war Democrat. The only difference between her and Joe Biden is Medicare for all and reparations, which she don't even have that right, because reparation activists had to tell her that her dollar amount's incorrect. And she tried to shout him down. So what's the big this is a mess. Because she don't know. She really does not know.
Well,
this is just like your Julian Assange before. You're just as bad on this as you were on Julian Assange before. This is bad.
On Julian Assange before, I said I didn't know. I said I didn't know. And for years, I've been supporting Julian Assange. Okay. For years, I have been saying that I have.
But I think the point is, Marianne, though, what Jimmy's referring to at that point in time, you were running for office. And so to say that you didn't know, shouldn't that have been something you should have educated yourself about if you're running to be president? Let me scroll back a little bit. Did we get to the part where he looked down at the phone? That part was kind of funny.
I mean, this is really disappointing.
It is. It is disappointing. I don't know how people can watch this interview and be like, this woman is serious. Yes, baby Ethernet. That's what she said to Marcel. She said, Marianne was like, you don't know. I was like, the fuck? I was like, this is bad.
Well,
this is just like your Julian Assange before. You're just as bad on this as you were on Julian Assange before. This is bad.
On Julian Assange before, I said I didn't know. I said I didn't know. And for years, I've been supporting Julian Assange. Okay. For years, I have been saying that I have gone to marches and I've visited with the.
Look, this is the part that's funny. So Jimmy picked up his phone. Checked out. Jimmy said, I am done. When are we going to end this and wrap it up? You guys remember that Dave Chappelle skit where they had the little box that says, how about you just wrap it up? Wrap it up. Oh my God.
I didn't know. I said I didn't know. And for years, I've been supporting Julian Assange. For years, I have been saying that I have gone to marches and I've visited with this Stella and I've walked around the Parliament building in London. I've definitely been in support of Julian Assange and for years.
Okay, well, good. Well, good. People know now. So now people know you're a staunch supporter of the Ukraine war effort. So,
you know, it's funny when you say, well, you would say it's strong supporter of Ukraine war. That's your language. It is not mine. I am strong.
You a weak supporter?
Well, you know,
I can't, man. I can't. When I watched this earlier, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to keep it together when I go through this tonight, because this is just, she's a weak supporter of the war.
May I finish my sentence?
Sure.
I'm a strong supporter in the path to a negotiated settlement in which there is a Ukraine to negotiate. And what is happening right now, to me, is in a way a vindication of that view, because now real negotiations are beginning. And real negotiations are beginning because both Russia as well as Ukraine know it's not going to be so easy to get everything you want here.
They tried to negotiate in the beginning. What are you Why is she talking like this is the first time negotiations are even being discussed? Well, and Jimmy told you earlier on that they had that opportunity back then to do that.
And I'm glad that Vladimir Putin is beginning to have countries like China now for the first time willing to attend a meeting like that, because he will be getting China, India, Brazil, and other countries, not just the United States, who are saying this thing has got to stop and you're not going to get everything you want.
So it's that kind of attitude that is getting people slaughtered in Ukraine.
Bingo. Look at the look on her face. It's true. People are dying. Like, we can't sit here and pretend like that doesn't happen. There are casualties of war. We're not just talking about the soldiers, but people are dying. So the longer this continues, more people die. Ooh, honey.
And it's that kind of naive, that's that kind of attitude, that kind of view of the Ukraine, the NATO and the United States are using the people of Ukraine as cannon fodder to try to inflict economic damage on Russia. Yeah, and so this isn't about liberating from Russia. This is about us provoking.
They were already a country. There was nothing. We're not talking about the Donbass.
But she's totally ignoring the economic issues. I'm going to show you the chart after this clip. I'm going to show you what this is really about. Because the thing is, too, is like, how can she just totally dismiss the fact, especially since it was revealed in those Pentagon leaked documents, that this was all about trying to implement some other type of regime change to overthrow Vladimir Putin. Like, let's be real. Economically, how is Russia doing? Including the fact that they had the sanctions. Even with the sanctions, how is Russia doing economically right now? I'm going to show you. Let's continue. This is a hot mess. Oh, man.
Inflict economic damage on Russia. And so this isn't about liberating from Russia. This is about us provoking.
They were already a country. There was nothing. We're not talking about the Donbass and Crimea.
So you can have this view if you want. It's odious.
It's interesting. So you think that the people of Ukraine and the way they've been fighting in this war are just doing that, just as puppets of the U.S. government?
Yes. Oh man, they're killing me tonight. Kill me. Come on, man. Come on.
That kind of fighting, that kind of spirit, that kind of unbelievable fighting is only because of the puppets of the U.S. government?
Yes, we are. So if you don't know what's happening there, that's fine. But to say that we're not slaughtering those people for an economic war by the West on Russia just shows a naivete about the situation. And it's too bad. It's too bad. So you sound just like, you sound like MSNBC and CNN on this. And it's too bad because that's garbage.
Yeah, that you talk to someone who doesn't agree with you, like by definition, and we're stupid. But that's okay. Is there another subject?
Okay, go it.
And then you see what happened there at the end. She's like, is there another subject that we can switch to? Let's get away from this one because I might reveal more of myself. Let's get away from this particular subject and go to something else. This interview did not go well for Marianne. And I'm very, very shocked that she went on to Jimmy Dore show. And it seems like to me, she was not prepared to have this discussion. You want Jimmy show? Obviously, he's probably going to talk to you about one or two things. He's going to talk to you about the war state, and he's going to talk to you about the pandemic. And I felt like on both, you'll have to go back and watch the other clip about the pandemic. I felt like on both of them, she just was really not prepared for this. I don't know what she was expecting to come forward. Like she just wanted to be on camera and smile like at his audience or whatever, but she did not make herself look good in this video. I mean, Jimmy asked her questions that you guys can answer some of these questions. You guys can answer some of these questions that Marianne stumbled on.
That's fine. That's fantastic. Come see our live shows. We're going to be in Chicago, Rosemont, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City.
And then it ends like that's kind of funny. Come see our live shows. Like, yeah, I want to show you how Russia's doing right now economically. We're going by GDP. GDP and PPP. Let me go ahead and put it up. Put it up. Put it up. Okay. International Comparison Program, GDP, PPP. Let's scroll down. All countries and economies. Most recent value by the millions. Okay. It's in alpha order, so let's scroll down. So far, Argentina, 2022. Watch this. I want to show you something. Just go back and check. I mean, you guys probably already know the answer, but I just want to show you. There's Germany for 2022. Alphabetical order is a bitch. Sorry. I'm bad tonight. This is just bad. I'm sorry. It's a Friday and I'm all over the place. You see that? Russian Federation. Economically right now, even though there are the sanctions, and then we can go a little bit further, but I think you guys get the point. But economically right now, and if we're looking at 2022, so that ends with 2022, and the conflict started earlier last year. So at the end of 2022 was 5.33 trillion for Russia. By the way, that includes the sanctions. So even with the sanctions, economically, Russia seems to be doing all right. And that is something that the U.S. government does not want to continue. You got to think about some of the things. They don't have some of the same issues that we have in this country. When I interviewed Tara Reid, when we talk about the food industry, they don't have a company like Monsanto poisoning their food. The food that people eat over there it's clean. And because of that, they don't have some of the same health issues that people have in this country. Boy, I tell you, that was not a good look for Marianne. Let me go to some of the comments here. But yeah, if you have not had a chance to do so, go ahead and smash that like button. That helps me out with the algo. Thank you very much. Going to the chats. My comrade JB says, even Kyle Kulinski even talked about how Marianne Williamson was against Medicare for all in the 2020 primary. Yes, she was. Again, that wasn't that long ago. Yep. Tia says she knows being a Democrat means that she doesn't have to enroll or subscribe to those icky details. There you go. Thank you for the super chat, Cool Blue. RFK Jr. and Marianne, when they wax nostalgic, they are showing us they are romantics. Long live the past. It was so good to everyone. All right. Thank you so much for the super sticker, Gassan. Thank you so much. Thank you, Roger. Has Marianne Williamson ever talked about working class issues? I guess Medicare for all. Thank you for the super chat, Queen. MJ saying they don't really care about us. He sure did. I actually like that song. Thank you, Sir Bikes a lot today. That's an interesting name. Trump rotted her brain. No, she won't launch nuclear weapons. What's up with RFK and Williamson still getting their news from corporate media? I don't know, man. They know about independent media. They've been on independent media. Thank you again, Miss. They tied the Ukraine money to a domestic bill for Hawaii. Ding, 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 ding. Thank you, none of your business. Is in it for the campaign money she gets. Thank you, Charlie. Marianne's the perfect new face of the Democratic Party. A bad joke. Man, this is interesting. Thank you, Rift Seif. I honestly don't know what a Ukraine is. Is it like a U-boat? Oh, I think you're being sarcastic there, maybe? And thank you again, none of your business. Jimmy is tough. He is a good journalist. Yeah, Jimmy did a really good job. Like, she was not prepared.